Okay, brilliant. Okay, thank you everybody for joining us this morning. So this is separate to the pensions changes that are going on in April. So this is just some independent, some advice. So I've got Ian Brewer from Bradford District Credit Union, and I've got Jan Cowling. So I'm going to hand over to Ian. Thank you.
Fantastic. It's going to be Janice to begin with. So Janice, do you want to share your screen?
Yeah, just give me 1 second. I'm hoping you can see that.
Still see you at the moment.
Right, okay. Bear in mind, that hasn't quite worked as I thought it would. Presenting Teams, that's what I wanted. Right, so hopefully in a second you can now see the slides. Is that right?
Yeah, come up. Yeah, perfect.
Perfect. Okay. So, yeah, as Ian says, my name's Janice and I work for an organisation called Money Helper, and we're a government-backed organisation which is designed to help people to understand their finances and pensions. Now, I work specifically in the pension side of Money Helper, so that's my expertise, but we do have guiders that deal with finances in general, so they deal with anything from benefits through to later life care, so real A to Z. As I say, we were backed by the government to help provide this information. Now, what we do is we provide guidance. We don't do advice. There is a very big difference between the two. So guidance is telling you what you can do, so the facts behind what you can do, whereas advice is telling you what you should do, so personalised advice. And that's where financial advisors comes in. The reason why we tell people guidance is because you need to be regulated to do advice, and we're not regulated. But we do have lots of information on our website, which I'm going to show you in a second. So as you can see here, we look at lots of different things within Money Helper. So as I said, I deal with the pension side, and we'll come into that in a second. I've also got my colleagues who look at money guidance to help you understand financial matters. We've got consumer protection. So we have areas where we look at scams from all areas of financial matters to help people understand what a scam might look like, who they can turn to help protect themselves, and just provide them with more education around it. We've also got a strategy where we're looking to try and build a better financial future for everybody. So we're not focusing on just certain areas, we're trying to do it for everybody and to help them help themselves. And then we've also got a lot of debt advice. Obviously, debt is a very hot topic and it's a very sensitive topic sometimes. So we do have people who are experts in debt advice to aid people, either if they're at the start of that particular journey where they're starting to get into trouble and they're thinking, how can I help stop this before it really gets started? Going right through to when people are facing things like bankruptcy, CCJs, that kind of thing. So there's lots of information that we have. So as you can see, we've got our website here. That's the homepage. So as you can see on here, there's quite a lot of different topics. I work within the pensions and retirement side of it, so I just have one little area to look after, whereas my colleagues have quite a few others. So I'm hoping that what will happen now is if I click on here, I'm hoping, can you all see the website?
Has the website still on
there?
Yeah.
Right, okay. I was hoping I'd be able to show you the website. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unshare and I'm going to do it a different way. So just bear with me a second. No, you don't want that. That's not what you want. Get off. Right. Right. Hopefully you can now see the website. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Brilliant. Okay, so as you can see on our website, there is lots of different topics that we look at. So if I open up each one, as you can see within benefits, we've got lots of different bits of help around things like universal credit, the different benefits that you can get if you're working or if you've got children or if you're unwell. And, you know, if we go into, for example, unwell, you can see here there's lots of different help about the different types of benefits that you could claim. Now, I'm not saying that we are benefits experts, because we are not, but it gives people a good starting point. We've also got everyday money. So this is like banking, budgeting, running a car, credit and insurance. So there's lots of different insurances and we cover them all within there. We've got family and care. So everything from A to Z, from becoming a parent right through to passing away and everything in between. We've got homes, so looking at things like buying a property, renting a property, what sorts of things to consider. We've got our money problems area. So as I say, we've got lots of help with regards to debt and also thinking about the cost of living. It's a big topic for everybody these days. So it's helping people to understand how that cost of living could affect the way that they're dealing with their life. And then, as I say, we've got areas on scam as well. I'll leave the pensions for a second because I will come back to them. We've then also got savings. So how to save, if you think about investing, different types of savings, and then we've got work. So things like what to think about when you start a new job, what happens when you lose your job, including things like redundancy. For those that are self-employed, things to consider there. So self-assessment, starting out, tax, and then that's just everything. Now you will see as I went through, each one has tools. Now we do have quite a lot of tools on our website. So we've got a specific area where all the tools are held, and you just click on whichever part of the tools you want. So if I go to everyday money, for example, you can see there under everyday money, we've got quite a few options for you to have a look at. So for example, if somebody's looking for travel insurance, we've got a travel insurance directory for them to use. If I go to homes, if somebody's thinking about, can I afford a mortgage? We've got a calculator to help people look at how much they might be able to afford for a mortgage. Savings, we've got a budget planner, which I'm going to talk about in a bit more detail shortly, but that can be really useful. Now, the one part of the website I didn't look at, this is my area of the website, so the pension side of it. Now, this is really important because, as we know, a lot of younger people don't tend to think about their pensions until they get to a bit older and they start thinking, well, hang on a minute, that's now creeping up on me. Pensions is something that is there for everybody if they're in work from the age of 22. Because they get automatically enrolled, providing that they meet all the criteria. So it is important, especially now that people do understand what pensions they have, because those pensions will be important when they get to retirement. So what we've got in here, we've got lots of things that people will find useful. So for example, because pensions can be difficult to understand, we've got the basics behind what kind of pensions you might be a member of. So the main two types are defined contribution, which is this one here, and defined benefit, which is this one there. So those two articles explain what those two types of pensions are. We've also got a bit about automatic enrolment and how it works so that people understand why they've been put into a pension. If they haven't, why haven't they? If they feel that they should have been put into a pension and they haven't been, it's not in this bit, there is a section about what to do with that. So we've got a section here called pension problems and changes. And in there, there is a bit, it should be in here. There we go. What to do if your employer goes out of business. There's lots of different things in here. So there is things about if your employer doesn't put you into a pension when they should have been, what if they go out of business. So you can have a look on there and it just helps people. There we go, help if your employer fails to pay into your pension. It just goes through what's kind of things to check, so you can see lots of information in there. Now, for those that are thinking about what they do with their pensions as they're getting to, say, the middle part of their working life. We've also got information about how you can manage and grow your pension. And if you've got multiple pensions, do you want to combine them? We've got lots of information in there. That is a very topical question that we get asked all through the year. The state pension, another really important pension, the one that the government pays everybody. So we've got lots of information about how it works, if somebody's got gaps in their national insurance record, how they can increase it, what happens if you defer your state pension. And then we've also got things about pension credit, because for those on low income, that's going to be really important. Then for those people who are getting to the point of looking at taking their pension, we've got lots of information here about how you can take your pension. So with a defined contribution pension, there's all the options in there. We've also got bits of information about what happens if you're unwell and you have to take it early. We've got help with planning. So for those that might not have got to the stage of wanting to take it, but they're getting close, we've got help with planning there. We also, for defined contribution schemes, have a pension-wise appointment. So there's lots of information there about the pension-wise appointment as well. And then the other bit that can be really important to people is tax and pensions. So with tax and pensions, there's lots of different things to consider. So we've got information here about things like tax relief. So this is money that you get from the government to pay into a pension. So we've got articles about what is it. We've also got articles about the different limits that come up with it. And for those people who are on high earnings, there are always other things that they can do. So we've got information there that helps them with that as well. We do have information about tax and how that is deducted when somebody is in receipt of their pension. So as you can see there, lots of information. So as you can see, there's lots of information around pensions and retirement. So it is important that people do stop and think about not just their pensions. I know that's my area, so that's the one I know the most about, but it is important that people do think about all these other topics here. So for example, if there's a big change coming in their life, they may want to have a look at the information on our website or some of the calculators that we've got that can help them maybe make that change a bit more streamlined for them. So as you can see, we have got a lot of information. So let me just pull up my presentation again. Just bear with me 1 second. Hoping that will... No, doesn't want to play today. Sorry, I do apologise. Come on, presenting Teams. Will you let me do it? No, not doing it. Sorry, I talked to myself. I do apologise. A very bad habit. Let me do it this way. Let me go back here. Okay, so yes, as you can see, there's lots of information on our website for people to have a look at. We do also have helplines and web chat facilities for people to think about as well. So the pension guidance ones are there. There is the money guidance ones as well. And with both the money guidance and pension wise, our guiders can talk to you about any types of pensions. So the pensions will stick to pensions, whereas our money guiders will stick to the money side of things, but there's lots of information that they can give. So if people have got questions and they're just not sure where to turn, then the money guiders, helpline and web chat facilities are there for them to utilise. As I say, we've got lots of support out there for them. I've gone through our website so you can see. We've also got different tools, as you saw, things like pension calculator, which helps people understand what their pensions look like. Now, one of the reasons why all this is so important is because for most people, the state pension isn't likely to be enough for you. So it is important that as much as people can, they start planning early. Now, what this page does is it just illustrates how much income somebody may need. Now, these figures are not set in stone. They are not saying you will need them, but they are just designed to give people an idea about what they might be looking at having in retirement. And you'll see that they are split out between 3 different standards of living. So minimum, meaning that you've got all your needs covered and a little bit left over for fun. Moderate, meaning that you've got more financial security and you've got flexibility to do more things in retirement. And then comfortable, meaning that yes, you can pay all your bills and you'll probably have money left over at the end of the month, and you have got money for luxuries like maybe a beauty treatment, streaming services, multiple holidays a year, things like that. And you will see that it's split between couple and single people, and also within London and outside London. And that's because we all know London is its own microclimate of its own. Now, this information has been taken from this website here, the Retirement Living Standards website, and they do a lot of research around this, and they change these figures every year. So as you can see here, these figures were changed in June 2025. So we're expecting them to be changed in the next 3 to 4 months to uproot them to be more in line with what's going on at the moment. And these figures are just designed to give people that starting point. Once people have got a starting point of what they think their retirement might look like, that's when they want to start thinking about building their own budget planner, looking at their own finances and thinking, right, okay, well, this is what my finances look like now before I've retired. What changes are going to come into play once I've retired? Well, it could be things like you've paid the mortgage off, so you don't have that to think about. There might be a lack of commuting for those people that are still commuting into the office. That could mean that there's no, if you've got professional exams or fees to pay, you might not have to pay them anymore. And there might be other costs that come in. There might be higher household costs and food costs. There might be a bit more commuting, but in a different way. You might be going on train journeys, to go see people, or you might be doing day trips more often. You might be having more holidays. So it's looking at the different ways in which your finances change, and it's using things like budget planners to adapt those changes to help people think, well, hang on a minute, this is what my circumstances look like. How is that affected? And for a lot of people, when it comes to retirement, their income is either, for some people it does stay the same, but for some people it may even reduce. So they've not got as much money in retirement to be able to do all the things that they want to do. So making sure that they do the budget planning can be so important. The state pension, as I say, that is currently just shy of £12,000, but that is going up to about £12,500 in April this year when it gets uprooted by the triple lock system. So it is important that people are aware of what their state pension looks like. Now, this is paid on top of anybody's other workplace or private pensions. So having a workplace or private pension does not affect you having a state pension. What does affect you having a state pension is the number of national insurance years that you have. So you need to have at least 10 years to get any state pension, and you need to have at least 35 years to get the full state pension. So this is why it is important for people to check their state pension forecast and to make sure that they are on track to get that full state pension. The other thing that's also important to know is that the state pension age isn't the same for everybody. So for those that are retiring at the moment, it is 66. However, shortly it will be starting to increase to 67. So there will be a point where it will be 66 and so many months, and then it will change to 67. And then in the future, somewhere in the 2040s, it will start increasing to 68. So unfortunately, I know that for my age, because I'm younger, I'm going to have to wait till I'm 68 for my state pension. So for anybody that's not sure what their state pension age is, this little calculator here is really good for telling you. It's really straightforward. It literally asks for your date of birth, your gender, and that's it basically. And then it tells you what your state pension age is. The check your state pension link, you do need to have a government gateway to be able to get into there, and that is pretty straightforward once you've got in there as well. So what can people do when it comes to planning towards the future? Well, it's thinking about your general finances. So looking at what are we spending, Where could we make savings? Are there any problem areas that we may need help with? And then it's thinking about your pensions as well. So it's looking at, what am I paying into a pension at the moment? Am I maximising what I could get from that pension? So what I mean by that is, when you have a workplace pension, sometimes employers do matching contributions. Not in all cases, but in some cases they do. So if you've got an employer that does matching contributions, could you afford to pay up to that matching contribution? So for example, if you've got an employer that says we'll match your contributions up to 10%, could you afford to pay up to 10%, or could you pay, you know, whatever is relevant so that you can get the maximum out of the employer contributions? So it can be beneficial to look at things like that. It is important to plan for the future. Think about what you want your retirement to be. Now, I want my retirement to be all singing, all dancing, where I spend my retirement going from the top of Italy to the bottom and all the way back up again. Now, I know that that means I'm going to need quite a fairly decent pension to be able to do things like that. So I am working my way towards having that big flashy retirement where I spend most of my time in Italy enjoying the food, the wine, the sun, and the history that that country offers everybody. So do start thinking as early as possible about what your retirement will look like. Now, there are a lot of cases where people have lost track of pensions. There is actually currently £31 billion of pensions lost. That is about 3 million pension pots. So the likelihood that somebody has a pension pot is actually higher than you winning the lottery. So you're more likely to have a lost pension pot somewhere. So do make sure that you trace lost pensions. And we've got a link to the pension tracing service there, which again is a government-backed service that will help you find your lost pensions. Now, they will not tell you if you have a lost pension, but what they will do is they will give you the contact details for who they believe the administrator is. And then it's down to the administrator to tell you if you have got any lost pensions. The other thing is, and this one I consider really, really important, make sure that any pensions that you have know who your beneficiaries are. Because if you pass away, then the providers have to work hard to try and make sure that the money is paid to the right people. It is easier for them to do that if they already know who the beneficiaries are. And I know from personal experience how much extra stress that puts on you when you're already in a very vulnerable state. So make sure that your pensions know who your beneficiaries are. So as you can see, there's lots of things that you can do, especially around pensions. So you can make sure that you know where all your pensions are. You can check your state pension, make sure that you're on track to have a full state pension. Also, make sure that you've got all your statements from all your workplace and private pensions. If when you get them, you're then not sure what they're telling you, you can always ring us here on Money Helper, talk us through what you can see on your statements, and we know what keywords to look for. As soon as we hear those keywords, we know what your statement is trying to tell you, and we can help explain that in a way that is jargon-free, or as jargon-free as possible as we can make it. As I say, nominate your beneficiaries. And then also make sure that you are planning towards that retirement. If you are like me and you do want that all singing, all dancing retirement, the earlier you start that planning, the easier it will be for you to have that retirement. It is easier to save small amounts of money over a long period of time than it is to save big amounts of money over a short period of time. The amount of phone calls that I have with people in their 50s who say to me, I wish I'd started paying into a pension earlier, or I'd started paying attention to my pension earlier, is astronomical. And that's because pensions is one of those topics that for a lot of people, they simply don't understand and they put it to one side and think, I'll deal with that later. And if you do that, you're not on your own. Believe you me, my dad does the same thing and he has a pensions expert living with him. So it's something that we all come across. If you do have any questions at all, then you can get in contact with us. We're here to help. We are not here to judge. We are here to help. That's what we want to do. I'm not quite sure what happened there. But we are here to provide you with that service. So it doesn't matter what it is that you want help with, whether it's money, or it's pensions, we are here to try and provide that service. And if we don't know the answer, we will either go away and find out for you, or we will point you in the direction of the people that will be able to help with that. So I hope that helps. It was a very whistle-stop tour, and I do apologise that it wasn't quite as smooth as I was hoping it would be. But hopefully that shows you that there's lots of information out there, and there are people there that are willing to help in the best way that they can.
I thought that was really useful. I think there's lots of links, isn't there? Their website look fantastic. There's lots of the links and tools that people can do at their own time that will be really useful for people to check. So that was great. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Janice, and good to be working with you too. So I'm going to come on to the credit union part of the meeting now. So my name is Ian Brewer. I'm the EDI Community Development Lead at Bradford District Credit Union, and I'm just going to bring forward my PowerPoint. Excellent. Let's go on slideshow. I'll probably have to do that in a minute. There we go. Okay, so Horton Housing is one of our payroll partners. We have 34 of those, and I'll talk you through exactly what it is about us. But the thing to note to begin with is that we were the winner of the Yorkshire Financial Awards 2025 Lender of the Year. And that's really significant for us because we're a small organisation, but we work ethically. Our lending and our savings helps boost the community, and we have interest that's affordable and allows people to work with that. The other great thing about credit unions is that from people from a Muslim background, we are faith friendly. That's because we don't pay interest on our savings, we pay a dividend. And our lending also helps people boost their credit score because we send positive data back to Experian. So, as I said, my name is Ian Brewer. My background is actually international community development. Done that in India, Nepal, Bangladesh, and South Africa during the 1990s and 2000s. I also have 7 years at HSBC in experience that's helped me to understand money. So when I joined the credit union in 2016, I set out to help our credit union become a community development hub that works, that offers savings and loans instead of a savings and loans company that does some community development. We are now known as a community development hub that does the savings and loans. I work with Siobhan Graham, who's my community development officer, and Yanka Bravkova, who's my marketing apprentice. So the history of our credit union began right back in 1993 when the recession of the early 90s caused staff at Bradford Council not to be able to get loans from their banks. They were talking to HR about it. HR decided to look at different models and set up a credit union. What that meant was that staff at Bradford Council could save collectively together, and from those savings lend to other staff. So a peer-to-peer lending, as you will. 2005, when in-communities were set up, staff moved across with the housing stock to in-communities, and in-communities also wanted the credit union. So at that point, we became a district-wide credit union to open to all residents of Bradford. Two things in 2016 were a game changer. The first was we were the first to adopt online banking. So that means that people didn't have to come down to City Hall. They could check their balance and move the money out of their account. And we now have a smartphone app that we supply our members to, that they can check their balance and move their money out to the current account from that we launched in 2018. 2016, the council decided to fund a financial inclusion officer. That was the role that I applied for and got at the time. And the idea was to help people in the community understand money better. I was also there to set up the anti-poverty coordination group that I'm now still part of the steering group for. In 2019, the government came to us and said that Kirklees didn't have its own credit union, neither did Craven. Would we extend? So we covered the corridor from Huddersfield right up to Skipton. It's about 1.5 million people. What's interesting is if you look at the membership growth, up to 2016, we had 3,000 members. We've actually just passed 11,500 members. We added 1,200 people to our membership last year, something we're extremely proud of. And because many of you on the call will work with disadvantaged families and people, especially in the work that you do, we help about 5,000 people that are financially excluded members, people that couldn't get a bank account anywhere else, couldn't get low-cost lending anywhere else. As I said earlier, we also provide faith-friendly ethical savings because we don't pay interest on savings, we pay a dividend. So any profit of the company gets returned back to members if we've made a profit that year. It never sets the world on fire, but people by and large stay with us not for the dividend, it's because they can't get into a savings account, savings habit to begin with. So if I was to ask you how much 11,500 people save together in an area of Bradford and Kirklees, I wonder what you might guess. Most people guess anywhere between 100,000 and £1 million. Well, I'm really glad that you're sitting down today because we look after a staggering £6.5 million for 11,500 members, something we're extremely proud of because we help people get into that all-important savings habit, and when they start saving, they don't withdraw it generally. They save it up for whatever it is that they're saving for. We couldn't do what we do without the workforce payroll savings. Now, as mentioned, Horton Housing is one of our payroll partners, and the stats are out there. 1 in 4 people have major money worries. 1 in 8 staff live in poverty unknown to employers. 82% of workers have turned to high-cost credit with the credit crunch, and there's an alarming rise of the loan shark use reported. Low credit score is also becoming more of a barrier. People that were fairly insulated from these things before, as mortgage costs have risen and everything else has risen, some people have started missing payments, which causes their credit score to decline, which means they can't get loans from their banks and they've gone to high cost credits. Solution is our financial wellbeing. We've been working with you now since 2019. We have in total 4,000 staff that save and borrow at 34 companies. Our largest company is Bradford Council still today, who have 2,500 members that save with us. We have a program of financial education with them, and we are their provider of choice for that. Staff save 3.6 million and borrow 2.4 million, and all our loans build up credit scores, as well as your savings help us to lend to the financially excluded, to people that are your customers. Some of the companies that are with us at the moment, as including yourselves. And then we have our partners. Money Helper, who you've just heard from today, is a very important partner to us. They help us with people understanding pensions, but also many other things, and we refer people to them as well. We work with NECA Gambling Information Advice and Support. Because of our lending platform, we see what a lot of people spend their money on, and it's shocking to see that the more poorer they are, the more likely they are to have quite a strong gambling habit. We work with the mental health charities, and we work with the Stop Loan Shark team. And just recently, we were able to help a loan shark come to justice here in Bradford that was lending out to about 25 different people and extorting money from them and trapping them in that sort of misery. The thing gets me out of bed in the morning and makes us very distinctive from other credit unions and community organisations is our community development projects. First one I have is the Money SOS workshop. You've heard that from Janice that Money Helper do some workshops with this. On a local level, this is what we do. And this helps to break down the mechanics of money, such as APR, payday lenders and loan sharks, how contactless works. Contactless was brought in as a cynical attempt to get people into overdraft, and then overall the credit score with that. So taking APR, for example, your average bank lends between 6 and 20% based on your credit score. Would you be surprised to know that it's estimated that only 40% of the UK population can get rates from their banks? 60% have credit scores that are too low for that, and they have to go somewhere else. One of the cheapest options that's out there and available probably to many of your customers is a payday a doorstep loan, where people go around knocking on doors, inviting people to take out a loan. And for just £500 over a staggering 272% APR, which is pretty standard for people, for those sort of companies, for people that have got poor credit rating. That's a £500 loan with £410 of interest. That's a £910 loan for just over 12 months for just £500. That's what people on your states, that many of your customers are facing, and that's how we as a credit union help to tackle that. So I have this workshop that I offer free of charge. It's an hour long, and being able to train about 800 people across councils and statutory bodies, NHS, social prescribers. So I'll be more than happy to do that with your staff. Work a lot with the Americans, and been sponsored twice to go to America to talk about the work we do there, because they, even though they have access to more money than we do, they have less impact. And the impact that we provide from our projects has been noted with our American friends. Some of the projects we've done in the past. And then we have the family loan, which is something that we brought through during the pandemic to help people get a loan from the credit union. You can borrow up to £500 a child. It's £1,000 is capped. It's paid back through child benefits. So people pay their child benefit into the credit union and can take a loan against that with the repayment and saving the rest or accessing that if they so wish. But this helps to provide people with revolving credit that you and I have through an overdraft or a credit card or some other form of credit. By offering this system, it allows people to be able to borrow and to pay back responsibly. But when they've paid off 30%, they can top it back up again. All our loans help people build their credit scores as well. We've worked a lot with BD25 this year, training their volunteers and their staff. And we have a program called Food Savers. I wonder if you as practitioners have heard of Food Savers. It's something we started during the pandemic. It enables people to have a corner shop experience where they go into a corner shop experience and choose food that they want and fill up a bag that's typically worth £30, and they pay £6 for that bag. £1 of that goes into the credit union, and that's how we've been able to help people to save. So nearly 2 years later, we have 22 pantries with nearly 1,000 savers saving a staggering £75,000 between themselves. People have never saved in their lives before. So if you're not aware of Food Savers already, please look it up and refer your clients to that. We also work in Kirklees. We're part of a £400,000 bid to do capacity building, financial education across two of the most deprived wards, which is Dalton and Ashbrow. And we do a lot of work with that. Then last year, Tracy Babin came to us to say that she was concerned about people that have very poor credit score. Banks lend to a certain credit score. We can lend to another credit score, but below that, we're not allowed to lend to these people because we're putting members' money at risk. She was concerned about these people and she wanted to help devise a project. So we came up with a project that helps people get £250 microloan with a £50 incentive, £10 to start with and £40 when they've finished that loan. And we helped 300 people to do this. We modelled that 60% would not pay back their their loan agreement because they have a history of not paying back their loans. It turned out to be only 27%. That means that 200 people came onto this, and because we were able to build their credit score alongside it, these people were able to go into mainstream lending, and they were able to rebuild their credit score high enough to be able to do that, which is exactly what we wanted it to do. And the Uniform Savers, it was another program helping 285 people over three tranches that we've done that we got funding for. Altogether, we had 750 people taking part of this, where they save for their own school uniform, 3 times £10, and got £100 incentive for doing so. We expected that the majority of these people would take their incentive and not carry on saving. Of those 750 people, 600 are still saving today and have saved £85,000 between themselves. So as a roundup then, you can start saving habit from your wage without missing it. If you join the credit union, which I'll show you in the next one, and you put Horton Housing as your employer and your payroll number, we will link that, and you will be able to save through Horton Housing payment as a payroll deduction. We have internet smartphone banking, same day access to your bank, access to affordable loans paid back via payroll, the Christmas savers, we have the junior savers. We are faith friendly, as we don't pay interest on savings, we pay the halal dividend. The ethical banking that supports your community. So by saving or borrowing from us, you're actually helping your community at the same time. Money SOS workshops and financial education on our website. If anybody is interested in joining, I really hope that you do, because as a credit union, we need to have money in our account so we don't lend out. So for every £10 that somebody saves with us, releases £10 in order for us to lend out. And that's why having new people joining all the time is so important. As I said, last year alone, we had 1,200 people join. Hit the join button, go through the system on that, put Horton Housing, put your payroll number in. You'll need your passport or driving license and your debit card to pay your first £5 deposit. And that's how we'll go from there. And that is the end of that. We'll stop sharing now. And I'm just wondering if people found that helpful. Did people know that about your credit union? And did you know that you were a payroll partner? And did you find that of interest?
I found it very interesting. I knew bits and pieces, Ian, but I didn't know the full suite of what you offered. So I think that's been really useful. And I think you're right, a lot of our colleagues will want that information for the people that they support, because I think there'll be a few people that will want to access it. So I think that, for me, that's been really useful this morning.
Fantastic. Is there anybody else that will want to say something? I've just seen Sarah Bebb. Yes, that was really good to hear how much it helps people. Yes, by saving with your credit union, you're actually supporting your local community and the people that you serve.
So were there any questions from anybody about anything about the earlier talk on pensions or what Ian's just covered? Is there any questions? No? Okay.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording now.